what it really takes to win federal government contracts. It's more than mechanics. It's in here. It's in each and every one of us. That is, you have to believe in what you are selling. Even if you're middlemaning, subcontracting, sourcing, 1099ing, gig working people, whatever, you have to believe, listen, y'all need Sony cameras. I am the best person to get those for you. You have to believe that you are the best. And say it to yourself. Whether you say it out loud, you write it on paper, you type it in your phone, you look in a mirror and you say, I am the greatest. I am the greatest at that. Because what we believe will come out. It'll come out in your proposal if you don't believe in yourself, or you don't think you're the best, or you're afraid because how can you count on somebody to do the work because you've only counted on yourself. It'll come out. That is number one. The mechanics are the mechanic. The belief and the other items I'm going to talk about, those are what set you apart. So this is the second part, and that is you have to decide, are you going to take the expert route? So when I first started out, I was in diversity and inclusion. I have a book. It's available on Amazon. I have several publications. I spoke for National Guard leaders. I spoke for military leaders. I was anywhere and everything that involved diversity and inclusion. I was the expert. I was the go-to. Oh, you got to talk to Dr. Parks. Oh, you got to talk to Dr. Parks. So I was laser focused on everything concerning diversity and inclusion. Plus, I have that PhD, so right, I'm like that quintessential super smart person. And one day, my mentor is like, Kizzy, you're doing well, right? You're getting these diversity and inclusion contracts. You're this expert. You know, you're making $250,000, $500,000. Then what? I was like, what do you mean, then what? Like, isn't this amazing? It's like, what else are you going to do? One of the main ways you make money in federal government contracting is staffing. He's like, what are these agencies going to buy next? What are they going to buy next from you? And I really thought about that. At first I was pissed, like, how dare he? I make all, that ego moment. As time went on, I started to reflect. And I'm like, wait a minute. I see this diversity expert, that diversity expert, this diversity expert. Okay. These agencies are spending money with them, some millions, some not. Then what? What's going to happen next? Because the next cool, amazing diversity and inclusion expert's going to come along. Then why would they want me? What else am I selling? So as I pondered at that particular time following the lunch with my mentor, I made that decision. I was like, oh man, I don't want to be an expert anymore. I didn't really think I wanted to do staffing, but I was like, he's got all this. I want all of this. And I knew he owned property. I didn't really know much about his investments, but he would say and talk about different properties. And he was really well known for throwing this huge event every year where you would bring in toys for tots and for the Marines. So I knew he was the real deal. And that's when I decided to jump into being an entrepreneur. How I define an entrepreneur. I was interested in putting in $1 to get $32 back. In other words, I was like, hey, I'll try this staffing thing. Oh, you want Oculus headsets? Oh, okay, I'll sell you some of those. Oh, you want me to staff a warehouse person for you? What else you need? So you have to ask yourself what you want to do. If you want to master one product and sell that, do it. If you want to master one service and sell it, do it. If you want to do all the above, do all the above. It's what's best for you. As long as while you're doing it, you know you are the best. I am the best. As long as you know those things, it's irrelevant. Also, there's going to be some things that you test out. Like for instance, I started out in diversity and inclusion, then I pivoted. Do we still provide diversity and inclusion services? We do. It takes up about a fraction of what we offer, but we do. Being comfortable with that is also a good place for you to be because the federal government is evolving. Just look at now. Look at where AI has come. How you really win government contracts is learning. There are elements that are really important. Like for instance, knowing what does it take to win a contract, because it's more than can you do it. Like right now there's a contract for photography, maybe for 5 years. It's more than just photography. It's what does it take to win. And I believe the evaluation criteria, I think it's the resume of the photographer and lowest cost technically acceptable. So if you add some crazy profit on that, you're not going to win. So instead of even doing that, it's understanding, oh, do I even want to bid on this before you even put time and energy into it? That's really important. It's a matter of to limit exposure and instead expose yourself to positivity, to things that further uplift you, and to minimize time with people who are stagnant because they will try to do this. How do I know? Because I've experienced it. I experience it all the time in all different levels. When I first started out, I didn't have any idea what it was. Plus, I was way different then. But today, I recognize the signs and I look at it like I have to be a lone wolf. To be as great as I know I will be, I don't have time for this. Some will say don't share your hopes and dreams with others. I think that's up to you. I'll share with a damn stranger. I'll say, listen, you know what my dream is? My dream is to make $60,000 a day. I don't care how they respond because that doesn't impact me. Now, there was a time in my life where it would have been like that. And so if that's where you are, where you're like, I don't want to share it, then don't share it. Share it with yourself. Share it in a mirror. Share it on a piece of paper. Put it in your phone. Create a vision board. Do those types of things. Have things up. Listen to things that are going to reinforce positivity. Whether it's my channel, it's a podcast, it's a religious thing, whatever it is that's for you, do that. The government has a mandate for 25% of government contracts to go to small businesses. So with that said, there are different regulations, and not every agency adheres to these, but there are different regulations around how much you can subcontract. Typically, it's 49%, and it could be 49% of the work, 49% of the money, things of that nature. So let me break this down to you. I have found, which they should be, that the VA is the most critical of this. Why? Because there have been situations where a company was using service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses to win contracts, and then they would do all the work, and basically they're committing fraud. And they're well aware that since they have a mandate to go with SDVOSBs, they don't want to award it to an SDVOSB, and in reality, the SDVOSB is a pass-through. So the way to prevent that is, number one, making sure that you are subbing to another small business. Number two, whoever you sub to, you make sure that you're also involved. Middleman, many people will say, oh, you just connect to, bam, move to the next one, rinse and repeat. It's not that simple. Let's say you win a contract for janitorial work and you know Jones Janitorial is going to do the work. You don't just simply say, here you go, Jones Janitorial, call this number, they'll arrange everything. I'm rinsing and repeating over here. Good luck with that. You still have to be involved in project management, invoicing, quality control, things of that nature. What I have found based on my experience is that as long as you are involved, then you're not going to run into issues. But if it's, again, service disabled, you're trying to rig the system and just be a pass-through, you're going to run into issues. Number one, it's about the evaluation criteria. If the evaluation criteria is lowest price, technically acceptable, and you want to win, you have to give the lowest price. There's ways for you to find the lowest price by going on SAM, going on GovTribe, going on GovWin, going on FPDS, using the internet, as well as the following. This is what I like to do. Anytime I find an opportunity where I'm not the incumbent, I will ask the following. So jot this down if you're into taking notes. Ask, is there an incumbent? If so, what is their contract number, their name, and the contract value? If there's an incumbent, it at least gives you some type of data point. So for instance, this janitorial work with NOAA, it's in Miami and Maryland annually and like semi-annually or something. A 5-year contract, I believe it was like $57,000 for 5 years. You're like, $57,000 for 5 years? They're only cleaning the places a few times a year. So you see that and you may say, oh my gosh, that is not worth my time. Okay, just swipe it. Or you may say, okay, well, that's kind of cool. It's a start. It's something. Then bid. You already know this is what they paid in the past, and then you can budget accordingly. Next, there are websites you can go to look at hourly rate to see what the government has been known to pay for different opportunities. Because one of the big things on how you win contracts, it's your mindset. You want to hear how you win it, go watch War Dogs. You'll be able to see the mechanics just replace FedBizOps with Sam.Gov. No different. I was on this cruise with my birth mom. We were somewhere and she was saying something like, basically trying to bring me down because of my aspirations, right? And I kind of remember like we were outside when this happened. This was several years ago. She gave birth to me, but my adoptive family raised me and I am who I am because of Arthur and Kathy. Keep that in mind. So I just said to her, and I was like, I call her mom too. I was like, Mom, I've never heard anybody in life say, don't strive for things, be mediocre, don't challenge yourself, don't do anything in life. I mean, I definitely said it with an attitude and just left it at that and probably walked away. In my life, I was taught, my dad would always say, baby girl, you can be anything you want to be. You don't have a lot of the hurdles I had, because he was born in 1942 and he remembers segregation and all of these different things. And so he always encouraged my entrepreneurial endeavors. And so I was just like, no one in my life was like, just be small, work a minimum wage job, that's good enough. So that really struck a chord when she said what she said to me. And then I had to respond back. I'm like, you didn't raise me. Don't come for me. You better go talk to your sons over that nonsense. Is it possible to manage a $2 million contract by yourself? Yeah, it's really about what it entails. You could run your business off a $2 million contract if the profit's what you want it to be and call it a day. You know, it just really depends on the quality of life that you have. When I first started out, I had this whole view of scarcity. I did for a very long time. Nowadays, I'm not like that, and I have people. I'm actually growing GovCon winners too. Check out profitablecontracts.co/free if you want the whole free capability. One pager, go there. Y'all are amazing. Everything's possible. Hit like, subscribe, share, everything.